All right, so the thrill of the hunt is what hooked me to Tarkov initially. This idea of sneaking around while you're being hunted, as well as hunting others, I guess, yeah, within the game. It was pretty cool, and it felt really thrilling to just kind of encounter players when you had the drop on them. I thought that was real fun, and I didn't really play it as aggressively as I could have, and that's probably because of hardware issues that I had down the line that prevented me from doing that. That's actually the biggest part of the game that drew me in, because it was kind of a new feeling, really, to have that PvP environment where you can hide in a bush and wait for other players to just roll on by and then, take their stuff. It was also figuring out the game because there was so much to the game. There were so many maps. The maps were so big. Like, even putting together a weapon, modding it was kind of a task of figuring things out because there are no tutorials in the game. You just kind of have to try to assemble things and see if it works. And that process of figuring things out, I actually like that process. I mean, I thought it was stimulating to go through it because you think it would be easy, but it's not as easy as you initially think. So yeah, it really drew me in there. The mystery of everything, just being new, being sucked into the world of Tarkov. But reaching level 15 was a bit of a struggle for me. Definitely for any new character or any new player that plays solo. I imagine they didn't have too good of a time trying to level up to 15, And I found a lot of people that didn't play solo in the game, but I started solo and it was rough going. Took me a lot of raids to get to level 15. Pretty sure I went broke a time or two trying to get there. So it's just getting through that initial hump of, I'm dying, but then you kill someone or whatever, and or you find some really good loot, or you're able to take down, a couple scavs, and now you have a kit out of the raid. And that all adds to the satisfaction of extracting out of the raid, really. But after I reached level 15 and discovered the flea market, things got way easier because the flea is so helpful in your adventures. I mean, it gives you access to pretty much all items that can be sold in the flea market, which were a lot when I started. I mean, I didn't know which ones weren't buyable in the flea because I was pretty much using it to get items to upgrade my hideout and to complete a weapon loadout. Like, I rarely used it for anything else, really. But that really made my life easier for the most part. And even later in the game, I think I still use it for mainly the same things. I mean, the bigger items to buy are like the containers, and I could buy a lot of the containers, like the sick pouch, the injector case, pretty much everything besides the thick weapons case and the thick item case, I think. And that was all right with me. I mean, I didn't even know those existed because I never got to them. So pretty much all my first wipe, the farthest that I got was maybe the weapons case, and I was satisfied with it, really. But then later on down the line, a bit into my first wipe, like maybe middle of the first wipe, I started getting these stutters in game, and they would really, really get in the way of me enjoying the game. I was not able to really play aggressive at all. I had to play defensive most of the time, and that was just because of these stutters. And I was looking online on Google, Reddit, any forum I could find that could help me figure this out. Like, why is it happening? And until I finally find one that talks about RAM, that, you need a lot of RAM to run the game, at least to run it smoothly. So then I start monitoring my RAM when I play, and I could see that it does get maxed out when I play. So it was creating this stuttering in the game that looked like lag or something. And I was happy that I found the problem, because it lasted for a while. And so I finally got a bigger RAM stick, and I went from 16 gigabytes of RAM to 40, and my game started running really well, a lot better. So fix that for the most part, and now I was able to enjoy the game again, and really turn up my aggression, really go for fights. And it's not like I'm amazing at the game, I'm not, but at least it gave me the option to and have that fun again. So that was nice. But yeah, even the system requirements, when you Google them for this game, tell you that 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM are okay as a minimum of RAM, and I really don't think that's accurate. If you really want to enjoy the game, you need a lot more RAM than 16 gigabytes. Otherwise, you'd be dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with. And my graphics, my settings were turned all the way down, I'm pretty sure. So just, yeah, make sure you have plenty of RAM when you play. Then I kind of want to talk about cheaters, I guess, because it seems to be a big thing in the game. For me, I don't think it was a big thing in my games. Of course, I don't play as much as other people. I maybe would play like 3 hours a day, max. But I would play regularly, like every day in that time, or at least in the first wipe, I would play almost every day. And I just don't think I noticed very many cheaters. It could be from just not being good at the game, so I couldn't notice. But yeah, there's like people that are just good at flicking. They have a good flick, and I think that's pretty normal unless they do something like pre-fire or chase you down exactly where you are. There's a couple maybe like 3-4 times, something like that, where I feel like I really did encounter a cheater, but there's no way to honestly tell. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with that. But anyway, by the end of my first wipe, I was feeling burned out at the end. After it was over, I guess. Yeah, after the first wipe ended, I felt burned out, really, because there's quite a few things that you can accomplish that take the whole wipe to get to like your hideout, that as much progress as you can get in your hideout, and for it to just disappear and you have to start completely fresh from zero, it doesn't feel good. So that was kind of a weird kind of hump I had to get through as well, because yeah, all of your progress just disappears. You're starting fresh from zero. You don't have any of your loot, all of your containers and whatever you've acquired. It's all gone. The level of your traders goes back down to 1, and it sucks seeing that. But I kept playing. I enjoyed the game, so I played the next wipe. I did play it, and reaching level 15 again was so much better, so much easier than the first wipe. I was able to reach it in less than half the raids that it took me to get to there. That was good. That was awesome. And then I wasn't great at the game still. I was learning more about the game. I was starting to watch more videos about the game. And I was noticing that people would post things about reaching Kappa. But anyway, yeah, I did not feel good about how people were, kind of like locked out of reaching Kappa because of the shortness of the wipes, and because of people like me that have jobs and we work, so we really don't get much time to play. On top of that, I'm a dad, so I even get less time to play. So that all plays into not being able to reach something like Kappa, and it's kind of a downer learning that I couldn't reach it or other things. I can't remember exactly what, but I know there's a lot of end game stuff that I just could not reach. So, but then I found that they were adding a PVE. I went to PVE when it came out and I tried it, and it seemed pretty fun. So I think I pretty much stuck to PVE after it came out up until a couple weeks ago, because I wanted to reach that end game content. I wanted to know how far I could get in, and what's all there, to see if I could maybe get there faster in PvP, or even just kind of train my muscle memory a little better in an easier environment than PvP, because PvP is harder. And I was enjoying it. I had a good time in PvE. I think it's very useful, especially when you're learning. So yeah. I eventually encountered a streamer by the name of No Generals, who I think is probably hands down the best Tarkov player in the game. I mean, he's the best Tarkov player that I've seen so far. There's a lot of things that he does that I think other people don't really do, and he executes it really well. So I by watching him, I was trying to learn things that I could do, try to incorporate them into my gameplay. So eventually, if I went to PvP again, which I did plan to, I did want to go back to PvP, that I could then use those. A few weeks ago, I went back to PvP for the first time since PvE came out, and yeah, I was feeling pretty good about it, and I had several good raids where I was able to get PMC kills, and it was fun. And I remember that thrill again of having players in your raid, and how intense of a feeling that can be, because they can outplay you. You really have to be on your toes when it comes to PvP, and that's a really fun thing to experience. So yeah, I do recommend this game. I feel like if anybody has, especially if you have a couple friends that you can play this with, you would probably have a good time, because the more players you have on your team, the better your odds of success. And it really adds to the realism when you can't see who your team members are. So it's, you kind of have to be a little more mindful of what you're doing, and everybody's location. Got to be tactful, and I like that about the game. I think it's great implementation. So yeah, I do plan on doing other playthroughs, not just strictly doing Tarkov. So yeah, I want to bring those in soon. And yeah, if you made it this far, please give me a like. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.